Today in the crypto space, we see a bit of weakness in this market. Bitcoin at about 28,400 and Ethereum down approximately 2%, hitting that 1550. The rest of the crypto space, the altcoins, are pretty much in a dip as well. Some deep retracements here and there. However, guys, in today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator, and I want to talk about one project, one altcoin that is part of a very bullish narrative, and that's a gaming narrative, and that project is called BIGTIME. So you know what? Let's talk about the news. Let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of that volatility. And if you appreciate the strategy, subscribe to the channel, click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Guys, if you have any projects you want me to cover here on the channel, feel free to comment in the comment section below or hit me up on the socials. The links are in the description. All right, guys, let's see what's going on here with this market. Bitcoin, of course, going sideways, down a little bit today, to approximately 1%. Ethereum, more of a dip, 2.5%. And we can see a lot of these altcoins pretty much following the heavyweight lead. Right? Pretty much Ethereum is leading these altcoins to lower levels. And this is the thing here, guys. Maybe that little pump that we got yesterday based on the fake news of the ETF, gave us a little bit of a sour taste, and this is the problem here now. Do we trust the pump? Do we trust the volume that we got? And most likely, we're going to see now in the next little whiles, true value being hit. We got to see what this market actually identifies as true value. The invisible hand needs to come in and give us the true value based on, the fake move that we got yesterday. So if we scroll through this market, we can see that generally speaking, we do have a dip. We do have a couple of dips throughout the market. Toncoin looking pretty strong, up approximately 6.2%. That's looking really good. I wonder what the catalyst is behind that. We got a few dips here, of course. Polygon coming down 3%. And as you can see, we're getting a bit of a dip, approximately 3% throughout the market, 4% on AVAX. So in the last little while, we've been seeing about a 2% to 3% pump up in the last couple of days. Now in one day, we're seeing a deep retracement, more or less 4%, so you can see how quickly, especially in an accumulation phase, we do get enough, ebb and flows, enough pullbacks here in the market so that we can see retracements that give us a second, third opportunities to scale in once again. Now, I'm not totally convinced here, guys. I'm not totally convinced that we're even going to completely go sideways. As long as Bitcoin is showing us this indecision and weakness, I am not interested. At the end of the day, if Bitcoin does come down to those lower levels, we're going to see a lot of the liquidity exit the market. A lot of the money is going to flow out of the market and maybe even get into stables. And of course, maybe we can take a look at a USDT dominance, which is something that is really interesting. And we'll take a look at it tonight. I'm going to put it on the list, USDT dominance. We'll put that on the list as a request. Obviously, guys, if you have any that you want me to cover, that is a great time and place to actually make those requests live tonight at 7:30 Eastern. All right, let's continue here. AVAX getting a pullback, Uniswap down 7%. There's a bit of, I would call it FUD for now, because some people are anticipating that Uniswap could become the next KYC victim. And a lot of you probably are thinking, how can the DEX get KYC'd? Well, the reality is, as an exchange, it has a vulnerability. There is a level of centralization with Uniswap, which is the front end. This is a topic that I've been talking about for months here, guys, months upon months, that at the end of the day, the DEXs have a job to do. And their job right now is to completely become decentralized. Uniswap has a website that is registered, the domain is registered, which means that there's an individual, there's a business, there's a face to Uniswap, which at the end of the day is going to cause a scenario where regulation can be hit. And this is why a lot of us are thinking that Uniswap could eventually implement KYC, and there is some indication that it's very possible, given that there's some trails of, let's call it code or even metadata within the Uniswap website that is showing us that the future could hold KYC options. So this is what maybe is causing the bit of a dip here on Uniswap, down approximately 7%. Now, going forward here, guys, if we really want to embrace decentralization, we got to really be actively looking for a decentralized exchange, a DEX, that uses something else other than a front-end website, okay? Maybe some sort of application that can be downloaded as a terminal, something that where it can be distributed as a peer-to-peer through a peer-to-peer network and not relying on a website, or maybe hosting a website on another type of domain rather than using our typical hosting services, right? Using IPFS maybe to decentralize the actual website itself, the data for the website, and using another service to give us domains, right? There's a lot of Web3 projects right now that are offering URLs and domains for sale as NFTs and so on. So I'm not sure exactly what the solution is. Of course, we're going to have to leave it for these developers to come up with a solution to the problem, but desperately we do need it. And as soon as we find one, I believe that it's going to have to take our attention. We're going to have to focus and see if it's going to solve this issue, because we're definitely seeing issues surrounding the DEX narrative. OKB looking pretty good, up 5%. And many other altcoins are a bit of a retracement today. You can see the little pullbacks here and there, 2 to 3%, 4% for Arbitrum. Nothing too crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. Now, those ones that are pumping and looking like they're just going rogue, like OKB, be careful. Be careful with this pump. Be careful with getting into, green candles like that. Caspa up 6.6%. Wow, nice move to the upside for Cas. I'm liking Cas. Caspa's looking strong right now. Did retrace, and I'm thinking that tonight we should be looking at Cas. I'm going to put it also on the list and as a maybe, just in case we have some time, because I'm going to put your request tonight in top priority. Let's continue. Stacks looking pretty strong after a nice impulse based on Bitcoin's leap, up 10%. Not bad there. Pullbacks throughout the market. A few Phantom, holy, what a dip. 6% out of nowhere, and I'm exaggerating it because it's not just the 6%. It's the previous consolidation that you can see here that it broke right through. So that support is no longer support. That's an issue, right? So FTM, Phantom, we'll take a look at that one tonight as well. And I think we're done. Overall, the consensus is the market that there are dips throughout the market that you can technically take advantage of. However, guys, just be careful, because it could dip down even further. The continuation to the downside could have just begun. Like, I'm not trying to spread FUD or fear or anything like that, but it's all about Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin does come down to that $20,000 level, give or take around that zone, expect that altcoins are going to get on that fire sale scenario. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to break below previous lows or, dip down into price discovery, dip discovery, but it could just come down enough to reach those previous lows and maybe get some support and structure, and then we could buy the dips and DCA and all of that good stuff on some of these tokens. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts. Let's begin our analysis talking about Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin doing? How can we use Bitcoin to give us an indication on what we should be doing with altcoins, particularly BIGTIME? Of course, today's video is on BIGTIME. I want to talk about the overall bullishness that BIGTIME is experiencing right now, but right now Bitcoin is not looking very, very healthy. Let's look at this in a little bit more detail. We can see after yesterday's news and the retractment of that news, we got a quick retracement. Almost 50% of that buy pressure was eaten up with sell pressure, and all of a sudden we're now in somewhat of an indecision candle. In fact, it looks a little bit more bearish as this hammer is kind of playing out. You got to see what happens here on the daily, how it actually ends up tonight at 8 o'clock. We close the daily candle. We'll be live, of course, and we'll kind of take a look at Bitcoin, of course, and how the market is going to react based on what's happening here. It looks like it's just getting rejected. It looks like, honestly, if we don't get volume here for some conviction, it could be that Bitcoin just rolls over. It does look like a blow off top as of now. It looks like the sell pressure was way too much. The FUD was definitely there. There's still lingering indications that maybe we'll get that ETF, and I think the overall market is getting desensitized with this concept anyway. I know I am now. What happens when when we actually get the ETF. Is the volume and interest already done? Was this just an indication of what it could have been like if it was real? And to be honest, even if that was the case, it didn't look really strong. Yeah, it took a short period of time to kind of retract that information, but still, I expected a bigger impulse, especially within the hour, like a much bigger impulse, and it wasn't even that big. So let's consider that maybe right now is a bit of a risky moment to go all in on Bitcoin, right? And considering the momentum, we could get into overbought scenarios, and I've been talking about this risk of going short right now is that the momentum of the RSI actually gets overbought. It's still in play. We got an EMA across to the upside. Remember, the MACD is a lagging indicator, so it does take time for it to register some of the price action into the momentum, and we could eventually see that this thing rolls over. But right now, as we see, the MACD is looking okay. EMA's open, facing up with green histogram bars, so maybe continuation to the upside, but the divergence is still here, guys. Look at this upward sloping price action while the momentum is right now double topping and potentially looking for a rollover. For me, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in taking any risk right now based on this. I prefer to look at some altcoins with better setups, with better, healthier risk to reward ratio opportunities. All right, guys, speaking of altcoins, today is all about BIGTIME. Let's get right into it and see what's going on here. And I chose BIGTIME for a particular reason. And my reason is just because at the end of the day, a lot of us are looking into new projects that just released a token. BIGTIME has been around for a bit, but they've just went mainstream with their tokens, and this is why we finally have an economy. And as we linger here in the bear market, we're looking for these new projects that don't have enough price data, and this is something that we got to deal with. And how do we deal with this as traders? Of course, it poses some risk. It does bring some risk to the table, given the fact that we don't have data to reference and look at previous price action to make some inferences on future price action. And this is one of the issues that we got to deal with. So how do we deal with it? Live the other day, we did focus on BIGTIME for just a bit, and I figured, why not let's talk about it again, because the last time we looked at it, this didn't exist. I highlighted this level of area that we need to focus on, the top of the volume gap and the bottom of the volume gap. Looking left, you can see that the price action went straight up, very little supply and demand in the zone, and if you can see, the VPVR kind of confirms that this zone is a weak spot. So what do we do here? You can see that the price action based on the daily is not giving us much. There's not much data, and actually, in fact, if you look at the momentum, there is no data on the momentum because it is a lagging indicator, and it does take time. And right now on the daily, there's not enough data to be produced to be shown here. So this is something that we got to deal with. Now, if you look at the price action, though, it is respecting the top of the volume gap as we speak. Not necessarily that it is going to, but it is currently at least holding up here, and it's stuttering and getting some reaction at this point. We can see that at this level on the daily, we're not even getting any volume in this price action. So really, there's not many market participants. Now, what I'm interested in seeing is if there's enough bearish momentum to actually break right through this volume gap and hit the bottom of the volume gap at about 12 cents. If that is the case, guys, I'm interested. I'm interested to DCA. I'm interested even right now to potentially buy in a little bit because we could get support. But on the daily, we're not getting any signal, right? We're just kind of falling. And the falling aspect is like trying to catch a falling knife. You don't know where it is, so you're going to start buying and buying and buying. And what about if it keeps on coming down over and over and over? And at the end of the day, all you're going to be doing is throwing your position size away. You're just basically buying a little by little, yes, but you're not buying into any support. Let's wait for more confirmed support. So let's go into the lower time frames on the 4-hour. Do we get any signs of support? Honestly, not really. All we do is have a good level of horizontal, which we could get a reaction. We could get some support right here. It's all a game of probability. Look left, we do have a bottom that we're going to contend with very soon. And then we do have like an inverse Adam and Eve type of pattern. Adam, nice a V blow off top type of scenario, nice V, not recovery but dip, and then a nice rounded bottom for the Eve, right? So Adam and Eve, and all of a sudden we have a neckline. We have a level of invalidation, which is a very key to address, especially if you're going to look at risk to reward. Right now, if you have the option to go long, you would have to acknowledge the fact that if we break below this horizontal and we have a wick there to give us a level of ambiguity, of course, it always exists, to actually go long with a very tight, nice and tight risk to reward or stop loss right here, improving our risk to reward ratio. So if we get in right here, let's say that we put a hypothetical scenario, we put this in, let's put this trade setup in so I can explain what I mean. You can see, like, let's say you got in right now. right now. It's very risky because what about if we fall right through? And I'll talk about momentum in a second. You could put your stop loss right here, and then you could take profits. I would be thinking about taking profits right here. The ratio is decent, right? The ratio is decent. But what about if we actually fall through the volume gap? But the ratio is decent, right? You're looking at, 12 to 1, and you're looking at a 46% move to the upside while you're only sacrificing, about 3.5%. That's decent, no doubt. However, guys, what about if you get stopped out? You got to anticipate that it's possible. And if it is, you got to anticipate that it could come down to these lower levels. And I'm talking about right here at the bottom of the volume gap at about $12.2 cents. This 12.2 cents is very nice because we do have the volume gap. We have a bit of a jitter here that could act as support. And if we get fully oversold on momentum and we are close to that level, I'm interested. Okay, so let me repeat this. Let me kind of summarize in a sense. Right now, I'm not that interested on the 4 hour, given the fact that the momentum on the RSI is entering the chop zone. The RSI could get oversold. It could come down to lower levels, bringing the price down to lower levels as well. Now, we could consolidate here in the chop zone at the 50% mark on the RSI, kind of bounce around here at the top of the volume gap, and potentially break below. And then it would be looking like an inverse cup and handle, right? So inverse Adam and Eve turning into an inverse cup and handle, and then also producing this handle right here for this consolidation, and then finally breaking below. And if that does happen, you're going to get a better entry, and then back to Bitcoin. Remember what we just talked about Bitcoin. At the end of the day, if Bitcoin does come down to those lower levels and does break down based on some of the bearish targets that a lot of people have, between about 22 to about 19, I'm expecting right around that zone. I know it's a big wide zone, but as a momentum trader, I wait for the momentum to give me signal first, and then I look for horizontal support. And I'm going to apply the same theory or the same strategy here in big time on the 4 hour. I want this oversold condition to get fully oversold down to the 30% mark. I want to be able to exit the chop zone with a bit of a consolidation and then continuation to the downside. And if it gets oversold, I'm interested. I'll be buying the dip. And the likelihood of getting oversold and finding some support at about 12.2 cents again is very high. So I'm going to be waiting patiently for us to fall through the volume gap, look for some of that support. Now, you can see that the MACD, EMAs are facing down, red histogram bars to the downside, no sign of support just yet or point of reversal. So we got to understand that the momentum is definitely still looking for downwards sell pressure. And on the 1 hour, we do have some indication that we might be looking for a bit of a bounce. This is where you can start playing the time frames. The daily is not giving us much. So I'm looking at the 4 hour and the 1 hour. The daily, unfortunately, like I mentioned, there's no data to really go by. And the 4 hour is showing us a very similar thing, that this is hitting a good support level at right now. The 1 hour is giving us some bullishness with the fact that we could be looking for bullish divergence very soon. Now, we're not getting anything right now. Let's be real about this. The RSI is coming down. We don't have enough data to suggest a bullish divergence just yet. The price action is somewhat double bottoming, slightly higher low. Nothing really convicted here. No conviction here for me to suggest that we're getting some divergence or getting a pop, right? So wait for potential indications, a nice pattern here. Again, structure, build a structure, build some support, look for inverse head and shoulders, W formations, cup and handles, all those types of structures that could suggest a pivot point, and look for the ultimately you're looking for bullish divergence here in oversold conditions on the RSI on the 1 hour. If you're going to go long for a short-term quick move to the upside, again, the 4 hour is showing me continuation to the downside. If you plan on going long on the 1 hour, it's got to be in and got to get out, because the 4 hour is still looking like it wants to continue down. And if you're going to go against the 4 hour trend, which is the bigger time frame, you got to be prepared to get in and get out. You're going against the trend on the 4 hour. It would be wise to say that if the 1 hour gets fully overbought, and gets to overbought conditions and we show some resistance, it would be wise to say, look, maybe getting into a short position, it might be a bit better, because at least it's in tune with the thesis that you can build on the 4 hour, that maybe this RSI and the MACD might be continuing to the downside after a bit of a consolidation here at about 18, 19 cents. Okay, 18 to 19 cents, right around here is where we can consolidate in the short term. But a bounce to the upside based on the 1 hour is very possible. So get in, get out. Where would I get out? I would be looking at this little volume gap right here for potential level of resistance, and I would also be looking at 20 cents right at the top of this volume gap for a bit of resistance to potentially protect myself from a long position based on the 1 hour. The 1 hour is not a long hold. You wouldn't be in even the 4 hour. But at least the 4 hours giving us a decent signal that a continuation through the volume gap and hitting the lower levels is very, very possible. Guys, expect to see a lot of these projects, especially as this bear market unfolds. We see a lot of new projects coming out, a lot of new hype, a lot of new narratives coming around, and there's not a lot of data on a lot of these projects, and we have to make decisions based on the data that we have. And don't feel afraid of looking for fundamentals to support your thesis. If fundamentally a project is showing us a lot of good green signals, green flags, essentially you're seeing a good green flag on the charts, couple those things up, find some confluence and DCA and buy those dips. Guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a huge favor and slap that like button. Guys, I'm going to be live tonight at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. Feel free to join. Of course, I'll put your requests in top priority if you want to follow me on the socials. The links are in the description below. Guys, join the Discord. The Discord's a great community, lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, learning material, and all that good stuff. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.